Alright, Candypower here. Welcome to a video. And today I'm actually doing something that I was gonna do probably at least a month ago by now. A really long time ago. Yeah, like a month. Anyways, I did an interview about Northwind from some questions. And then after the end of the 1 hour and 30 minutes, I opened up my recording. And there's no voice on the other side. It just sounds like me talking to myself. Though I was talking to someone in the actual interview. So I've effectively what I've done is I've listened to the interview again a month later, taken all the context clues and based out what questions did they probably ask, and I've compiled them into a list that I'm now going to be answering. Okay, the other thing to keep in mind is that these are outdated, so my answers to them will be sort of answering from what I know now. But if you're confused why a question was asked, it was probably relevant like a month ago. Anyway, so the first question is, what do you think about duping? Basically, my answer was, well, duping's the foundation of the Northwind economy for all the really big, high-tier weapons like Dopplets and Masterworks and stuff that realistically, if they were actually, achieved normally, would be worth way more. So those prices are a lot lower because of duping, which is not a good thing. That these weapons, that their entire con is that they're very expensive to get, are now a lot cheaper. So it's not good, but it's kind of like trying to plug a water hole, but you're trying to suck the water out of the ocean instead of just patching up the ship. What are your thoughts on Karnax, who's for those of you who don't watch Northwind, that's a dude. He makes Northwind videos. He's really big, 2,000 or something. My thoughts, well, he plays Northwind a lot. He's a big YouTuber. He has long form fight content and short form guides, but not really anything in between. Next up, why don't you accept interview requests and Discord DMs and stuff from fans on Northwind? Well, I don't accept off-platform stuff like Discord or stuff actual Roblox friend requests, because when you're a YouTuber, you are very rare, and as you get bigger into thousands and hundred thousands of viewers, people, even if 99% of them are good, that's still 50 bad viewers, which if you have that many bad viewers, and one of them can claim, oh yeah, I had DMs, because it's the internet. Even if they can say, oh yeah, he said this horrible thing in the DM, even if they don't show proof, and they just show oh hey, look at what he said here. Yeah, he's basically just making small talk, but trust me, there's other context I can't show you. Well, show us the DMs. No, because they can't show it because they don't exist, but they still want attention. It's kind of like with Dream, so that's why I don't accept off-platform things most of the time, or even just private things like friend requests, where you now have friend DMs and stuff. Okay, next up, what are your thoughts on Northwind furries? I kid you not, this was a real question he asked. Furries, well, that seems really difficult in Northwind, because, half the apparel in Northwind is just dead animals being hung on your skin. So unless you're a cannibalistic furry, you really shouldn't be in the Northwind community to begin with. 2, they probably have a mental health disorder and are a human, or they're an alien, one of the two. Either way, it's worth praying for them. Next up, thoughts on the new Northwind leaders. So this is back when the old guy finally left, and the new guy that everyone made this huge deal about. Oh, he went to game design college or some school for that. It may have been high school, I'm not sure. But yeah, he's the person who unbanned, so maybe they're smarter, because they had the thought, hey, maybe not everyone banned under this was banned for a good reason, obviously. Next up, why did the ban happen? Well, I have one suspicion from that. I made my final Northwind video before it was a Ravenfield video, because I couldn't make a Northwind video on why I got banned, because there was no Northwind footage. I think the ban was because one guy who said, I'm reporting you, because I was good at video games, basically. He accused me of aimbot, etc., that stuff that doesn't really make sense when you miss shots. But anyways, yeah, that's that. Next up, what are your thoughts on the Dopplet and Masterwork? So, these are very expensive weapons that, let's be honest, most people wouldn't have these if they weren't duped into oblivion. Where you can get Dopplets now, which are Dopplets just destroy all the other guns that have existed. You can now snipe and one tap at the same time. That's not great if you want gameplay. They should probably be like banned if Northwind was going to become the game that I started playing like multiple years ago. I don't have that same opinion for the Masterwork. A lot of people like ask me why, because the thing about the Masterwork is it's a sword, not a gun. So even if you ensure your Masterwork and whatever, and there's no risk here, you still have to use like a cheap gun now because you're using the Masterwork, which is really expensive, or you're just very rewarding to kill now. So either way, it's not as good. Whereas the Dopplet can one-tap, the Masterwork's still only a melee, and the melee can't even one-tap. So that's why, is it great for combat? No, but it kind of destroys the combat scene too, but it's less than what would normally destroy the combat scene from like the Dopplet and stuff, and probably doesn't need a ban. Maybe a nerf, I don't know. Next up, why don't I have like actual drip? My response, I do have actual drip, but I don't care about what other people think. Drip is entirely based off what other people think. I don't care. I look cool with gray wolf skins. They look pretty cool. Next up, why do I use bows and not guns? Well, sometimes I use guns for like capturing SLC badges and stuff like that. I don't use a bow or I don't use a gun because the gun, you shoot twice and then you're out of ammo and you have to reload for like 9 seconds. Now that might stand up in like a 1v1 where guns are advantageous, but in a multi 1v insert number here, the gun, you gotta reload, and while you're reloading they can just heal up their dead teammate, and you've just wasted ammo faster than they've wasted bandages, so it's not really worth it. I mean, they're good, but they have their limits, whereas the bow has 10 arrows in a quiver, and I only really ever use wooden arrows because they're way easier to get, but I only really ever use wooden arrows because if you train with wooden arrows, then when it's time to perform, you'll be even better with metal arrows. So it's basically just train harder than you fight for why I use those arrows, and then the bow has 10 arrows in a quiver, which is a lot more damage and more consistent too, so they can't stop and bandage, or else you will get kills. And it also works for things like boats, where you shoot like multiple people, and even if you kill one, they can just crouch down and revive their teammate in a boat. So if you have a bow, you can just do 2 kills worth of damage without having to reload. Or like in house battles where you're shooting outside of a house. That's pretty important, so that's why I use a bow. Okay, so the next one is, he asked me about a specific video, which I'm not going to name the specific video here because like now I'm like 160 something people subscribed, and the channel was a lot smaller, like 40 or so I don't want to like destroy their channel. Effectively, it's like a 4v6 maybe. I don't remember too much about the video specifically, just what they say. Basically, they're defending a house that's not made great for house defense, and within this video, a few interesting things are said. So one of them says, "I'm better than Candypower." I doubt that. Remember, this video was made like a little earlier. It wasn't after I did like a 1v6, I think it was. So it wasn't as bogus of a claim then, but it was still a bogus claim when they made it. Then you also have, they have like an argument over whether I hack. It's like a few words or something, but one of the persons was of the opinion that I hack, the other person was of the opinion that I don't hack, and then there's some other people who didn't state their opinions. That could have been the reason I got banned. I was later told that these people had connections. Could be, could not be, I don't know. That's always an option, though. And then, like, of course, the comment section was my fans and the video got like destroyed. But yeah, that was the thing. Another reason I could have been banned. I don't know like what the question was here, but the answer was that basically you can be banned for anything in Northwind, especially for good, because I played a lot and I got really good. So one of the funny things in these Northwind rules that also aren't available on the game itself and only on the Northwind Discord, I had to get my friend to send me a screenshot of the rules for this one. If you defend your house too well, that house can be deemed unrateable, even if your house is spawned in on the other side of the map, and you are on the other side of the map, and you are fighting, your house is like very far away from you. But if you're fighting too good, that could be considered defending your house, at which point you can be banned for it, depending on how I think the official like phrase was like at moderator discretion or something. Hopefully this changed with the new leadership. I'm not on the server, so I can't really check. But yeah, there's that stuff. You can really be banned on Northwind by anyone who feels like it. So, of course, this ties into why I don't just exclusively play Northwind. Next up, he asks, how do I do like all the big like 1v insert large number here's? Well, a big part of it is like the bow versus the gun. The bow has more capacity and is thus more deadly in 1v insert numbers here. Then there's also things to do with like your melee weapon. A lot of people kind of clown on melee weapons because they're like, well, guns are way stronger. And I'm like, yeah, but you have 2 guns, you got 6 people. The numbers here don't add up. So of course you have to make up the difference between guns or arrows with your melee weapon, which is why I'm a fan of the boarding axe, because it has 2 taps, so it's extremely cheap too. It's like one of the 3 cheapest weapons, I think, if you don't count like the knife. It's one of the 3 starter weapons at least, so it's good because it 2 taps. Well, how many taps does the number 1 weapon in the game do? Well, before Dopplet, the number 1 weapon in the game could 2 tap as well. So the boarding axe is good because it does that. It takes up a lot more stamina than some of the newer weapons that are more expensive, but those are also way more expensive, and boarding axe does its job just fine. Has more range, I think, or at least it looks like it, than the mace. But the mace could be better for like CQB even then, because it's just less stamina. But yeah, another thing is I used to play like a lot of games like Bannerlord and Bleeding Blades and Chivalry 2, which I still play a lot of Bannerlord, just not with swords anymore. But that also helped me get a lot of like the melee skill I had then. So that's also a major use for melee weapons that I had. Next up is why the boarding axe over any other weapon that I could have gotten later game when I had like fans that would give me a bunch of stuff. Well, I'd still use the boarding axe because a lot of like why I play Northwind is because you can make videos on it. I probably would have given up on Northwind multiple times if I didn't make videos on it. So one way you can get clout fast is having an iconic weapon. Now, originally, when I was like looking at this, I was like, wait, what if I use the superior knife? And then I found out that, wait a minute, this thing sucks. So I used the boarding axe instead. That was probably the right decision. Next up, who was my favorite Northwind YouTuber? This is like a convoluted question, because starting off, technically I would be my own favorite Northwind YouTuber, but I don't think that's what he meant, because yeah, I like myself more than I like all the other Northwind YouTubers, but whose content I like more? I don't really watch my content because I was there when it happened. I don't have to watch it. I know what happened in it, and then I'm also the guy who edits it, so I get to rewatch it again and again and again. So I don't really watch much of my content because it's annoying to watch. It takes up a lot of time. I was there. I know even what happened where it is cut and there's no footage. So I guess would be Carnex because I don't really know many other Northwind YouTubers, though I've only watched like 4 Carnex videos, so I can't really get any good things here. Next up, why don't I block with my boarding axe? I don't block with my boarding axe because it's just not good for like large amounts of battles. Plus, when you block, you're basically creating a thing where you can't outrun your enemy. And if you're blocking, another thing that you can't do is you can't move as fast. So anytime you unblock, they have an opportunity to strike if they wound up their strike ahead of time. So I do block sometimes for like strategical pushes, but generally it's not a good idea. Then another thing, why not Great Axe? Because the Great Axe is more damage than the Boarding Axe, which this makes sense in like the conventional way of how people think of axe users. But the thing about the Great Axe is that it's not 2 hits for normal stamina bar. And I picked up the Boarding Axe when I was playing Colonist, and I still like it. But as native, even though I can use a Great Axe now, because a Boarding Axe can still 2-tap, assuming they're at full health. And anything above that can't 1-tap, I don't really care about. So the Great Axe, yeah, it has better damage, but it doesn't matter if you're still going to have to 2-tap them. And then if I don't really like combos either, like Boarding Axe and Bayonet, or Boarding Axe or Great Axe and Knife, even though they do add up to 100, it's just more complication that you could spend those few fractions of a second regenerating stamina, or thinking about something else, like how to gain a strategical ploy. Plus, the pike swings, and the knife is really short, so it's not as good. Or the pike, the bayonet stabs, so you don't have the extra swing range. How does stealth work? So stealth is like, that's another thing that made me pretty big, was like swimming underwater and not getting detected. This comes from like a lot of my Northwind playing. I just thought it was really cool. Like that I can infiltrate someone's base in Northwind and they won't even know. I always thought that was really cool. Plus it gives you a big edge in combat. So there's stealth, and then there's also passive stealth, which is like when you get into someone's base, and then you're in a fight, and then you disappear around a wall, playing mind games with what way do they think I'm going to come out, and how can I do this, is also still playing on the same basics as stealth. So it's pretty useful, but of course it has its limits. You cannot walk right in front of people. They will notice you're there. You cannot blend in with other people if there's no people there, or if you are a famous YouTuber who the like entire Northwind community that's actually like important knows about you, and like they can spot you from like across town. That's not really gonna fly. So that kind of got phased out after my channel started growing. Next up, why my house? So this is referring to my castle house. I don't have internet that's great right now, so I can't really log in and show you guys. But effectively, it's a house that, instead of valuing kill chambers like a RimWorld house would, it values more of a like fun fights that would be more fun and fair. Plus, it has a lot of obstacles to dodge around and stuff, versus a fight that would just be whoever owns the fort sitting on top and shooting random people while they try to pick locks, because that's just boring and doesn't make for good content either. Next up, why native over colonist? So once they released native to the public, I switched over to native. I like native a lot better because native has more stamina and better bow accuracy at a cost for guns. Are now worse with them, which I didn't really use guns much. The only thing I did use still was like pistols, because a native with a pistol there's no secondary for natives. Like you don't have like a pistol bow that you can put in your secondary slot as a native, or at least at the time I was answering this question. So you can still use pistols. I don't, because they're just extra work to get, and I can just work harder with bows and stuff. Plus, natives have more stamina, so that means better melee. So that means they have the advantage in melee combat. Plus, they're also really cool because they get extra temperature and stuff, and also better accuracy with a bow, which I use a bow more. So it's really like tailor-made for me. The one exception to this is like if you're like really big on like assassins and like just one target, get out, then colonists could be a better option with throwing knives, though you could just use a native with throwing knives for the extra stamina anyways. So you know, it's a different kind of world, because natives are better for 1v like twos or threes or fours, whereas colonists are better for 1v1s because you have guns. And then the next one is, why don't I team with people? Well, I don't really team with people. I do sometimes if it's like premeditated, like the goal is to go in and team with this person, and then we're gonna have like an epic fight against like 80 people or something. Sometimes I do that, not really. But I don't like to team with a lot of people, because how a team works is when you team with someone, then anyone else who is their friend, they're also going to want to let on to the team. And then they let on their friends and their friends and their friends, until eventually someone on the enemy team thinks that because someone that they're friendly with on your team is on yours, that you are on their team. And they will also try to shoot you while not shooting their friends. So you really can't tell who's who when you have that going on. So I don't really team with people. Plus, even if everyone knew how it worked, I still wouldn't do it, because another thing is, like, a lot of people have like this different thought about friends, which that's great, but I would not do that because I'm a YouTuber. There's like 150 people at this time that, at the time that I was doing the interview, that actually subscribed to me. So that means a lot of the Northwind community at least would want to team with me. Now, if you team with one person once, they always want to team again, which is fine for most people. But if you have 160 people that all want to be on your team, then there's no one left to fight. So that's why I don't like to team a lot, because it's just that, plus it makes stealth worse too. Why responsibility is important. This is actually like a paraphrase. This is another one like that earlier question where I'm intentionally leaving details out of this question because I don't want to like ratio another channel. Don't want to like destroy someone else's channel for things that they may or may not represent anymore. Why is responsibility important as YouTubers? Because you have an influence over everyone who watches your video. Say something that could be taken very literally. It's important that you let them know, hey, this isn't real. Because if it's kind of like if you were to make a bomb threat, and then even if you have like, oh no, trust me, it's a joke, in like a separate post, nobody's going to read that. So it's important that you don't make that, because people are still going to think, oh hey, there's a bomb threat. And when you cause that, it's very hard to uncause that. So it's important to be responsible. A lot of people say, well, it's just people panicking. Well, that has an impact. It's not good for people. It's not good for what happens. A lot of bad things have been caused by panic, and I'm not a huge fan of causing bad things, actually. So yeah. Then next up, thoughts on the term new gen. This is like a term to mean someone who's new generation, or as in they started playing Northwind after all the updates happened. Well, the term new gen is kind of dumb, because it's like, I understand why it exists, but the way people use it is like they'll say like new gen, kind of like you would say idiot or something like that as an insult, which insults again are just really dumb because they're pointless. They mean nothing. But on the term new gen, it's basically just saying, oh well, you're new to Northwind, which it's not like you're new within this month. It's like you're new within a few years. Now, a few years is a long time that you can get good at Northwind, and you can, in fact, get so good that you actually beat multiple old gens in multiple fights reliably. Kind of like this one crazy YouTuber guy who you should totally subscribe to named Candypower. So the term new gen is basically useless. I don't care. I don't care what other people think, really. So I wouldn't really care about people calling me a new gen. Next up. Why no scope when using a gun? I don't use a scope when I use my guns, even when I had access to one and was a colonist, because scopes are annoying. They block off a huge portion of your sight, which is great for faction because it amplifies your sight as well, which is great for factions PvP because you have other teammates with scopes that might finish off the person you did damage to. But in PvP, if you don't kill them to the point where they can't heal themselves up again, they can just duck behind a rock and heal up again, and now they're back to full health. You've wasted a bullet. And so that's why I don't like it, because your pistol would also need a scope to be effective. Unless you're like going to hit all of your shots with your pistols at a huge range, which is pretty unlikely. And I don't do big team things most of the time, so that's a downside of this. That's the downside of the scope and why I don't use it. Next up, this is like back when I used to make like a lot of Bannerlord videos and like Wooden Battle videos and stuff. Do you know Northwind is the most viewed on your channel? Well, technically it's the most viewed. When you start looking at other things like return viewers, etc., Northwind isn't always the best, plus reliability. This is like in the days of Bannerlord 2, where I had like my really long Bannerlord playthrough. Bannerlord is an episode series, so like if people watch 17, so like if people watch episode 8 and then they skip episode 9 because YouTube didn't recommend it to them, and they see episode 10, they're going to go like, well, hey, where's episode 9? And they're going to go search for it, and then they find episode 9. So it's more reliable. Whereas Northwind it's kind of like a series of videos. It's not as reliable, so it's more hit or miss. I like it a lot, but I also can't do it forever. It's online. I have limitations to what I can do internet-wise, because every now and then my internet will just go really bad for a very long period of time, where I can't play online games like Northwind with multiple graphic settings on and still get more than 10 frames a second, because that's just how life be sometimes. So I don't build my channel on one game. I build it on multiple games. Like, for example, when my internet went off a cliff after I did this interview, but before today, I was able to transition to other games I've played, and I still have people watch them because they actually know that there's other content I can make than Northwind. I can still do that to an offline game, even now my internet's bad. Next up, why does your voice sound like Technoblade? Well, I mean, it's probably like similar DNA or something like that. But also like it also sounds like him because like I used to listen to a lot of Technoblade videos, and I wouldn't talk to my family very much, and I didn't really call with my friends a whole lot either. So there was this point where like one of the main voices I was hearing, like the number one voice I heard in my head, like through headphones and stuff, was Technoblade's. And when you're in like a country, you start to sound like that accent, because that's how everyone else who's speaking English talks. And when a significant portion of your of the people you listen to sound like something, like the significant portion of Technoblade videos you watch, then you're going to sound like Technoblade. That's just kind of how it works. Do you make any money off of your videos? Which I have ads on my videos, so that's why I asked. But no, I don't make any money off my videos currently, because even though YouTube puts ads on your videos, you don't get any share of that money until you have certain requirements, like 4,000 public watch hours, which I'm at about 800 public watch hours, and you also need 1,000 subscribers. As of recording, I'm at like 160. So that's why I'm not monetized, and there are still ads on my channel. But yeah. Anyways, that's going to be it for this interview. Another cool thing I did was I gave him a cool knife. I'll probably put like some footage in here because, if you show up with something that's made by Candypower, and then you try to sell it on a market or something, a lot of people are probably going to think it's fake. So here is proof. At least this specific blade is real. That's going to be it for now. I will see you guys later. There probably won't be much Northwind content, but I still have like 4 to 2 hours of footage left that I can probably make into some videos. So probably like 2 more videos, maybe 4. Okay, that was a severe miscalculation. This is edited in Candypower. Upon editing, I had to like splice in like half of that footage, so there's like enough footage for like 1 episode left. Yeah, whops. Alright, well, see you guys later.